Hey everyone, welcome to another week of the Inventure Podcast and video here. Today what we're going to be doing is something a little bit more different. We're going to spend the time to look at the things that we've been doing from a company standpoint, and also look at what our plan is for the future and kind of what are the things that we're working on to really kind of be more behind the scenes, and also for everyone to see what we're doing and how we're doing it as a company, as it's just more real world and real life compared to just trying to be like every other podcast that's out there that's kind of focusing on the one thing to sell you something. We'd rather you just get to know us and what we're trying to do more, and kind of how that kind of relates. So if you like what you see, obviously like, subscribe, follow along for more details on it, as we'll be continuing to do these kinds of things every week like we have been.
No, that's great, Austin. And it's interesting because as we've been doing this, we kind of look at what do people want to hear, what do they want to learn about us, what do they want to learn about the industry of real estate, and part of it is about that scaling, that growth, right? And our days now are focused more and more on how do we scale this business, how do we grow the business, how do we grow opportunities for employees, how do we retain employees, and what are we doing for them and that process. But then it's also looking into the future of what is Inventure. We kind of internally talk about we're the fourth version of Inventure, right? And someday in the near future, probably Inventure 5.0, 6.0, 7.0. Under your leadership and growth, when I'm gone, it might be 10.0. Who knows, right? So we did something last week that was kind of last week or 2 weeks ago now. We performed a little SWOT analysis with the team, right? And it was interesting. And for those of you that don't know what SWOT analysis is, it's basically strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And from that, it was quite interesting. I think we broke into 6 groups. And what were some of the things that you heard? And I was trying to find it real quick on my phone that doesn't seem to want to search very well. But what were some of the things that you heard out of that as a strength, weakness, opportunity, or threat?
Well, I think one of the things that we did with it, though, just to go through it a little bit, which was kind of neat, is that we had our whole team there, right? And then in different groups of where a lot of organizations and a lot of times people get stuck in working with the same group, right? So brokers will work with the brokers, the accountants work with the accountants.
Yeah, great point.
Actually. And so forth, right? So it was nice to have different points of view in each of the groups, so that you get to see different objectives from even the different team members, because since we have people in Minneapolis, St. Cloud, and kind of spread out, get them underneath one roof to do that was, I think, more impactful because they also don't get to interact with each other ever. Right? So I think that was probably the biggest of the overall things, but then also getting the different ideas within the SWOT for us as business owners, right? We get to hear different things of what's going on, or what do the team thinks of our strengths, our weakness, and our opportunities and our threats, so that we can continue to build on it, right? That's really what, if you think of it, we get to see what the issues are as a whole team, or what the opportunities were, I should say, and then how we can move forward after that to get to a spot where we continue to grow, because we will never grow without team.
Yep.
So it was cool to see that point of view and have everyone engaged through it, so that we can see what they thought of, from what's going on in the economic world to where is AI in everyone's mind, right? That's obviously the big piece of it. And then how do we grow and scale when you have bigger competitors out there, right? What is our difference? What is our why from the overall group, which was honestly really cool to see. But also, what are the processes that we're missing?
Yeah.
Right? That was a big one that came from. We've grown from, when I started, in 2018, we were at 10 people, I think it was. And today we're at 26, and we'll be 30 in 2 months.
And I'll circle back because I want to talk about that, but continue on.
So, if you think of that, when you grow so fast like we have, you foot on the gas, just like you have always been from your history. We've already dug into that, right? But even mine as well. And then you kind of miss some processes, right? Or you miss a break point, and you get brought back a little bit, and you go forward. So it was interesting to bring it back through.
Yeah, it was interesting walking around and listening to the different groups and having those aha moments where, if everybody stayed very segmented and fragmented in the organization, they just kind of did their thing, and they don't necessarily have a lens wide enough to be able to see what everybody else is doing. And I think the other part of it is, and it's like we tried to look upstream to look at where the problems might be occurring, or challenges or opportunities or threats, and then how do you fix it before it gets downstream. So, a great example was like our PO systems or some of our billing systems, and it was like, somebody didn't know that they were actually causing a problem by their process that we had today. So then how do we change that process to allow the things to happen or flow through faster? And really that's about scaling, right? Because anytime we were starting to scale, and we've been on a pretty strong scaling process lately, you're going to find those things, and it's either going to come back and, like you said, slap you in the face and go, okay, now we got to really work backwards to try and fix it, or you try and fix it so as it's flowing down, it starts to be synthesized so that when it reaches the next person, it's in a what do I call, like, it's consumable by that next person.
Yeah,
so
it doesn't hit a dead stop, right? And then it's waiting for the next SOP or process or workflow to like kick in. It's like all just one even workflow that continues all the way through and then goes back to the top, instead of it just being like ABC person, this person, this person, this person, which is how we were in the past, right?
So I just pulled up the hybrid summary of this that I sent out to you the other day, and it'd be interesting to just quick talk about some of those. So strengths: integrated ecosystem, transparency, strong culture, team-driven team, leadership, vision, and relationships. Mm-hmm. So if you take those and say, quick, what do you think when you hear that? Does that sound like the strengths that you would have picked as well, or are they different than what you would have said sitting in your chair today that would have come up?
Yeah, I would say that would be what I would think that they would have came up, but that's because we've spent the last 14 months working on those exact things, right? Mm-hmm. With the Cardone team, getting our vision, our mission, our core values, getting our processes documented, having our team be part of the 10X employee stuff, getting, performance metrics in place, their personal, professional, financial goals. So that all kind of drives from that, and then also the culture that you started with.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that obviously plays a big effect of like the culture when Inventure started, as we've grown, and then as of these things. If you think of like those things, I think of like maybe what people would have said 5 years ago, I think it would be vastly different. Because I don't think we have that clear aspect. We didn't have that clear aspect back then. We do now, but it's because we put the time in.
Yeah, and I think about like the leadership, vision, and relationships. That's an interesting one, because I think a lot of companies that I talk with, people that are working there are like, we don't know where the vision of this company is going, and I think we promote a lot about this is where we're going, this is what we're going to do, these are the goals. They might be ambitious as hell, but guess what? They're goals, and we're clearly telling it to our team, so that they know the direction by which we're going to continue to scale this business.
Totally. And it's even the stuff they're working with the Cardone team still and their financial roadmap. We're going to be giving our team information that I guarantee you no other company has given unless they've went through that metric, because they're going to know what we need on a weekly or monthly basis for cash, or for budget this, or for revenue, whatever it is. Like, they're going to know those things, but in a way that's like trackable, not just a big dollar amount, right? So those are different things that employees never get the ability to see, which will be very interesting to see how they take that after this whole time of what we've been going through.
And just so the viewers can hear a little bit, what's the name of that team that we've built underneath of us now that helps us operate the business?
Yeah, so that's one of the other things that we've built, right, is the IGT, or the Inventure Growth Team, which is basically our division leaders working with us, but to manage the company and the culture going forward, right?
Yep.
So if there's a decision that needs to be made, or there's a process that needs to be worked on, it doesn't come to us, it goes to them, because they're the people that work on it day to day. Because otherwise it's you and I creating a process that maybe a leader doesn't agree with, and then we're kind of upside down. Are we going to be the decision makers 100% with it? But it's a way for our team to continue to grow.
And it puts that ownership in their hands, right? It's not us always coming down saying, build this, grow this, do this, but it's more of a grassroots managed up organization now, going, hey, we've got the goals. We're going to set the direction of the goals of the company. But IGT, it's your job and your ownership of each division that's going to really grow the company and scale it.
Well, and they're seeing financials, right? So they understand now, like, what months are good, what months are bad, and why, and how that affects it. So all of a sudden now we have a group of, there's 5, so there's 7 people now, including us, that know the financials and understand what's going on. So like when they're making decisions, they think on it with a different lens than how they would if they didn't know what was going on. Because otherwise it just seems like, oh, everything's going great. But in our company, like there's months that are good, months that are bad because of the cycle of a project.
The weaknesses are interesting because a lot of it has to do with probably growth, but communication and role clarity, operational process inconsistency, and capacity and resource limitations, which as a growth company, you're always going to be bumping up against the capacity, right? Like we're trying, we're scaling, we're growing. Who's going to do the thing, right? And so, like you and I were talking yesterday, like how many more people are you looking to add in the next couple weeks of staff?
4. I have 5, I guess, once we get into spring. But we have an intern that'll start this summer. On the real estate side, we'll have an engineer that'll start in a couple months, and then we'll need 2 more maintenance people down in the cities, and then I need 1 up here. And that's just for what we have going on, not for what we're already planning to do in the next couple months.
And then as we build the construction and maintenance division a little bit stronger, we're probably going to add 3 to 4 carpenters on this staff.
Yeah, because we're going to get back into carpentry work, which is your kind of passion to some degree, right? Yep. And so that allows us to continue to open up that world again. But also as we get back into construction, right? We need more people in the construction side to continue to grow.
And that really completes our ecosystem, and that ecosystem is kind of ever evolving, but it's something we built about a year ago now. But it's interesting as we look at that ecosystem and say, some of the things that we put on there, whether it was, economic pressures have changed some things, but it's also created opportunities for us to really refine that ecosystem and maybe even deliver 1 or 2 more things that we wanted to be able to deliver, and now we can actually fulfill that deliverable.
What I think it's interesting with the weaknesses too, it's something that we've noticed and we've figured out a little bit from the role clarity and some of those things, but we're getting even more into it now. I would say within the next 2 months we'll have it fully dialed in. But it's kind of like as you're growing and as you're a small company, right? Everyone does everything, right? So like when we bring people on, we expect, okay, Jake or whomever, like you should do everything that I can do, right? When it's not the truth, like with Brandon.
I mean, you're Superman, so I mean,
so are you. So that it's.
Stop.
But it's kind of like you take that one person, so like us, and we need to make 3 to do part or all of the stuff that we were doing, or whatever that one thing was, right? And it's something that we didn't do in the past. It was more of like, I need you to do this, I need you to do all of it, right? And maybe that's where we not failed, but maybe that was one of our biggest threats in the past, and now we figured it out going through the Cardone stuff. So like as we look at acquisitions and stuff, we're gonna have 3 people working on 1 acquisition, like just focused on acquisitions, right? So that takes the acquisition brain off of my shoulders and puts it into 3 people that we can train how to raise capital, how we can train how to go acquire, and how we can train to do due diligence and get it as a process to the end to close, right? So that we don't have to. But then that's the same thing we're going to do on the construction side, right? And it's the same thing we're telling our property controller, our Jake, our associate director of brokerage, and our corporate controller, Kathy, to do, so that the roles are very defined, but we don't have, an accounting person doing 4 different things when maybe that's not normal, right? But in a small business it is, but it's not how we can scale and grow.
And that's where that scaling, exactly what I was going to say, is that, that version 4.0 that we are today, we couldn't do it in version 2.0 because we just didn't have
you don't have revenue or capacity,
right? And so now we start to step up and going, okay, now how do we get to do $100 million a year in acquisitions? We need to have that team underneath of us that's processing, that's underwriting, that's doing the title work, that's doing all the things. So you and I aren't in that minutia every day, so we can go out and talk to investors, create new opportunities, look for acquisitions of different companies, and that will definitely be our growth as we continue to grow. And I think with that, the weaknesses are always, you can flip them and go, that also can ultimately become, if you're listening to this thing, it's what should become your opportunity.
100%, right? It's your opportunity.
It's your opportunity.
It's the easy, like if you think of like a business owner, we talked about it last night, which we'll get into a little bit later, but I look at like the things of, they're not like, you don't look in the rear view, you look forward, right? But it's one of those things that if I know what's going on wrong, it's the easy checklist. Okay, and I got 4 things I got to check off. I need to focus on these 4 things. It might not be me doing them. It might be me working with whomever to make sure it's set up. But then I've checked off the 4 things that our team thinks are our biggest issues. Yep. So we can find the next 4.
Yep. And there's buy-in, right? So when they hear us working on operational, efficiencies or things like that, it's quickly, oh yeah, that came from the SWOT, right? So not something you have to do every year, but it certainly helps when you do it more often, because then there's that intrinsic, I understand which way the company's going because of the things that came out of it, right?
Well, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to build, we're not trying, we are building a company, an ecosystem, and an organization that, like you said, we're going to go acquire companies that we can bring into our system that they won't operate under Inventure. They'll have their own name, right? Because we'll go buy a stable company that we feel like is a good fit for us. But also, we'll have the cultural fit to where people want to work with us because of how and what we share with our team.
Yeah.
Right? Because we want them to be bought in. We don't want this to be a spot where it's like, yeah, we manage a company and everyone's underneath of us, and Pete, you don't know what we do, and I'm not telling you.
And it actually brings up a really quick point, and one of the things that we learned a lot, and, it's been over my years in business, but now really got I'll say supported or reinforced with Cardone, was if we're not creating those great opportunities for the employees to succeed, we're going to be sitting at the top pretty lonely, right?
Totally.
And so this whole process that we're building is ultimately created so that every team member here, if they want to succeed, they want to create their own wealth, they want to make more money, they want to do whatever, that we can help them get there with our processes, right? Yes. And that's where that PPFs, as we talk about a lot, the personal, professional, and financial goals, they're setting those goals. We're just here helping be their coach or mentor to say, okay, if you want to go do this, then here's the things that I think you need to do, but you need to go do them, right? It's not our job to help them get there. They need to help themselves get there. We will give them the guidance. Opportunities, AI and automation, playbooks and process scaling, market transitions, and client expansion. So that's kind of an interesting one, because I'll be honest, AI, we were using a little bit of AI a year ago. The conversations around the table even last night at our growth team meeting was about AI and how is AI moving into our business now and how is it affecting our markets. Yep. So our team looked at AI as an opportunity, not a threat, which is quite interesting, right? But then really around playbooks and process scaling, they see the company scaling, they see the company growing, so they're looking at that going, hey, Doug and Austin, if we continue to make more playbooks, what's the opportunity and how do we create that opportunity? And then market transitions and client expansion. I think that the interesting thing with client expansion, we've got about 100 investors now, right? And on average, we've got 10 or 20 different unique clients in the course of a year. It's how are those clients coming back to us and now asking for different things, like how do I get integrated into this? You guys built us a building, but I'd really like to continue to invest with you. So how do we help them become a different part of the organization, and how do we help them then scale their own, growth opportunities with their independent portfolio? In fact, I took a call last night from a client, right, that, somebody that's in our industry, a little bit different sector, but she said, how do I invest with you guys, right? And so she's looking at us now more than ever as, not somebody that's just in real estate, but we are the consummate professionals and probably market leader in investment opportunities in central Minnesota, and that will continue to grow through the state.
Yep, you're 100% right.
Threats, economic volatility, rates, competition and talent pressure, knowledge concentration, and scaling risk. So the last one's actually very interesting, because the knowledge concentration and scaling risk. What do you think they were saying?
Well, I think a lot of it boils down to just like, where are our core competencies and what are we really good at, right? Today, right? So our stuff today, we're really good in the state that we're in, right? We're really good at working with the client, building them a building, managing all the way through. Like those are our like bread and butter projects, right? Where we can be involved in the decision making, we can be involved in what they're looking for, how to build it, and have them set up for the future, right? For the right type of client. But on the same token that's a hard thing to do across the U.S., right? Because you got to find the client and you got to be able to not wine and dine them, but take care of them, right? So like that's one of our big issues, and that's what even you and I have talked is like, how do we scale and grow and buy buildings across the US or getting into the warmer climates like Arizona and Florida, right? What type of stuff do we buy? Well, the stuff that we would buy down there isn't probably the stuff that we buy up here, right? I'm not very interested in buying an office building down there when I don't have the control that I'm used to in Minnesota,
Yep.
right? Like, and not with office, I like office, but I want to be on site. I want to be walking in. I want to be understanding what's going on, right? No matter if it's like good or bad, right? Like we have office buildings that aren't performing as well as some, but like I know why, right? I can talk to why to our investors, and we know what type of client we should be spending TI dollars or tenant improvement dollars on, because they're probably not going to leave.
Yep. And we can also put our property management team,
Correct.
basically mission critical, or put them on site to be able to try and help assist that building, or take care of the building and maintain it so that it stays to a high capacity of occupancy, right?
Yeah. And what was the other part of the threat on that?
So competition and talent pressure and economic volatility and rates.
Yeah. So I mean, your talent pressure, right? I think we've solved the talent pressure. We're always going to be hiring. And at the same time, we're always going to be firing, right? Like, we're looking for specific people that fit within our culture. And if they don't, they don't. And I don't really care. Because in order to grow and scale, like, we're looking for A people. Like, if you're not an A person, you shouldn't be here.
Listening to Cardone's Be Obsessed or Be Average last night again, it was just like, the interesting part is, I think as leaders, a lot of times leaders vacillate over 1,000 different things, and employees look at it and go, I just want somebody to be the leader, right? And I believe today we have a very clear vision for the organization, which then falls down to clear leadership to the employees, which is we're in growth mode and we are in go mode, right? This is now more than ever, like, there's no time to sit and whine about something. You got to take it on, run it, fix it, do whatever you need to do, but you and I can't step down to take care of it. So we need those team members that want to grow, that want to see success, that want to be a part of a very fast-paced organization. And so I always throw it out there, like, if somebody's looking and somebody's watching this, if you're at all interested in real estate development, anything like that, they should just reach out to you. And I mean, it doesn't, I think there's almost any role available right now. And then if somebody walked in here and said, hey boss, can we do this? And you're like, well, how much can we do in revenue over that? And the answer is $1 million. Well, guess what? We're going to probably go start doing that.
Yeah, I mean, if people, I always look at, like, if people are sick of where they're at, but they have a book of business, there's a role somewhere.
Absolutely.
Right? You bring a book of business in any company, I don't care what company it is, they're going to bring you on because you're adding value, right? You're bringing in something new for them. And it's also why, like, if you think of that pressure, it's also why we have the operating companies, right? For a team to be able to continue to grow, that's not just driven by, like, a development project or whatever. But it's why we're getting back into maintenance. It's engineering, carpentry, a little bit of construction, right? We're doing that because, for one, we see a need in the marketplace with the blue collar stuff that's going on, and with AI being here, right? AI is going to affect acquiring real estate more than it's ever going to affect anything in maintenance and construction, right? So that's more of us augmenting for the future of, like, where do we see stuff in 5 years from now? I see there being a lot less financial analyst roles. I see there being a lot less accounting roles. I see there being a lot less anything having to do that AI can touch, to be honest, because it's going to grow so fast.
And maybe on the flip side of that, let's say in 5 years we're a $500 million portfolio, right?
Yeah.
We're going to have so much maintenance and construction going on inside that portfolio.
Correct.
That we have to control it internally. Like, we couldn't, to go outside of the four walls and be able to say, like, okay, let's go hire 20 different contractors, we'd have an absolute chaos in trying to manage it. Are we going to still do that? Absolutely, right?
Yeah. We're still going to hire them because there's needs for, whether it's in the cities or we're too busy or whatever it is. So we're still going to need good contractors. But when it comes to, like, a little TI or a little maintenance thing that's going on,
100%.
it's easier for us to put 2 carpenters on staff and go fix that, or go fix, go help, go put a bid in for a public worker or whatever it is, right? Those are just industries that need good companies that continue to scale with them, and help grow and train those types of
and then we can
job and trades.
I kind of always use the analogy, our portfolio of properties is really like Fort Knox, right?
Yeah.
So we got to keep the temperature, the right temperature, so the gold doesn't, tarnish. We got to polish the gold all the time. We have to restack it sometimes, move it into different positions. But we're always managing that gold for our investors so that it stays at the highest value that it can for the investors. And doing this type of work, honestly, is like, it sometimes is like, why are we doing that? But in the end, you're looking at that with Melissa and the asset management team to be able to say, if we do this, this building will reposition itself or it'll look better. So I know I just saw one from Kira the other day that they want to buy a whole bunch of furniture down for a property in Monticello. And I looked at the pictures, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense, right? I mean, the building isn't tired, but it just needs a little refresh. So adding some furniture, some art, do some things like that. And she's taken that on as her own little project, which is great because I don't have the capacity or the time to go down to Monticello and stand there and go,
what should we do?
What should we do here, right?
Yeah.
So it's really cool to see our team working that way and growing. I mean, Kira's been one of those individuals in our company that's grown a lot over the last year, and really proud of her for doing that. So flipping a little bit, last night I was looking at my calendar, growth and development meeting. And this is another cool thing that happened in the company. So our team kind of came together and said, we want to learn from people, right? We also want to grow, and I think the kind of the terminology has been elite real estate professionals, right? And so our team kind of came together and said, let's have a meeting, not to have more meetings, but just let's have a conversation about just how do we grow to become that elite person? How do we grow to be better people? How do we, how did we do it? How did you do it? How did Doug do it? How, Melissa was sitting next to me last night. How does she do it? And we ended up probably having 10, 12 people on, we had some people online yesterday and then a lot of people sitting here, but that was pretty, I think, the questions that were posed last night were quite interesting, right?
Yeah, no, they were, and it was actually pretty impactful, right? Ethan, who was still in school, did an extremely good job, for one, setting it up, but for two, having questions that were open enough to breed more conversations out of people, right? And he even asked me last night, how did I do? What could I do better? So I was help coaching him late last night, so he can continue to grow for his own son, but he's just in school, right? So to set that up and ask the questions to a group of people like yourself or the IGT team that was there to whomever, that's kind of a big deal, right? But it's getting our team into spots where maybe they're really uncomfortable, but then they continue to grow. But getting back to the actual reason for it and the gist of it, it was cool because everyone was able to hear different points of view from the people that were at the table, right? So one of the big ones is always networking or sales or grow, right? So you got to hear from people like Melissa to people like Jake or Ethan or even Alex on and then yourself, right? Of those are completely different people from an R3 assessment of what they are. Are they a driver, a stabilizer, influencer, right? They're all completely different, but they're all giving different ideas of how you could be successful at going to a conference or a company event or an industry event or whatever it is, right? So they're all learning from each other. And the cool thing about that is it's not coming from you and I barking orders, right? It's true real life things of how and why things work, but also giving those real life examples of how do you, one of the things that I had last night was going into a meeting and having your own personal agenda and going to the meeting with intent, right? Or you're just wasting yours and whoever you're with time, right? But if you have the intent to go into something like that, and then I gave the real world example after it, the hope is that breeds a different thought through the team when they go into different meetings of okay, I need to know I want X, Y, and Z in this meeting. I'm going to get X, Y, and Z, and then I'm going to get the follow-up for whatever I need. So I thought it was really cool just to have everyone in a different lens talking about completely different ways of doing something that works for them.
Well, that's cool because Melissa, we got into a conversation about going to conferences, right?
Yeah.
And we ended up all chatting about different experiences in conferences, and at the end it just kind of came to a realization that the person sitting next to you at the conference is just as fearful about meeting you as you are to them.
Yeah.
And so if you and I go to a conference together super easy. We can just chit chat and we can just tone out the whole rest of the world and be.
That's what you do.
And that's what you do. So forcing yourself when you go to conferences to go, hey, I don't know you. Just introduce yourself. I know it's going off, your fear of doing that is massive. And as Will Smith says, on the other side of fear is bliss, right? And the person next to you could be that next $100,000 contract. And you have no clue. You sat next to him for 4 hours.
Or you could learn something.
And you could learn something. You learn about different people, right? Different
knowledge,
industries.
market industry knowledge, right? Like
absolutely.
Like think of like what was one of the last ones I can't remember what one of the last industry ones we went with, but we were next to a guy who represents just a big mall that's local in Minnesota. And we got to know what was working, what wasn't working, what's going in there, and I don't think anybody else knows what's going in that place, right? So like we got to learn that kind of stuff without knowing it or like knowing it before everyone, which is just big things in this industry. But it's also even the thing of like, I think of it that way, and like if you're sitting, like you and I are sitting talking by ourselves in like a round table, and then there's like one-off people, or like there's 4 other people on the table, right? Those 4 people are not going to talk to us because it's even more fearful because there's 2 of us that know each other. Right? So it makes it even worse for that person to reach out.
Yep.
So it's just that different mentality of you go to an issue event, okay, like I'm sitting by myself, or if you're still sitting with somebody at your team, like that's fine, but like your brain has got to say like I'm talking to the person across the table. I want to know all of their names and what they do and one thing about what they've done in the last year, right? Mm-hmm. So if I get all that out of it, like I've gotten somewhere.
And I like the idea. I think it actually ties to my Wisdom Wednesday, if I remember right, Isaac, about intent, right?
Yeah.
So the intent is, going into these meetings, sometimes people are just going to the meeting. I mean, I'm just going to show up at a meeting. Why would you do that, right? If you're in growth mode and you want to scale or you want to individually grow your own, individual wealth or whatever you want to do, growth in business, why aren't you walking in there with the intent of, okay, I'm going to learn something. I'm going to meet somebody. I want to meet the speaker, right? Push yourself to have that intent. It was a really great comment you made because I look at it and, looking at it internally going, yeah, there's been times where I went into a meeting and I just didn't take anything out of it. Why would I spend that 2 hours, 4 hours of my life if I wasn't trying to grow or learn or expand my horizons? Because there's, as Melissa said, she's, over her career and going to different conferences throughout the United States, she's got people now all over threaded through her professional career that are now friends, people you can rely on, people you can just call and bounce off something. But if she would have never taken that opportunity to have the intent going into that meeting that I'm going to meet somebody, your sphere of influence is just this big.
Correct. And you don't go anywhere.
And I think what's been fun about having the growth and development team coming together and doing this is that we're also able to help mentor the young people that are coming into the industry now more than ever, right? I mean, I even think about like in the construction company, I never had the time to help mentor people as much as I do now.
Yeah.
Right? And we're seeing the benefits of that.
Yeah, it's a culture thing, right? I mean, they always talk if you can find the people with the right attitude and the right culture fit, you can train the result, right? You can train the process, you can train the industry knowledge, you can train all of those things. There are times, obviously, you got to hire like a higher level person, totally, but they still got to fit the culture. Right? A person can be perfect, but if they don't fit the culture, they're not the right person. But it has been fun over the last year, again, to bring in people from college or still in school because they have the right attitude and they want the right growth, and then train them through.
Absolutely. Anything else that we did last week that was... It seemed like it was a blur last week, but... Yeah,
no, I think we obviously have a lot of big things coming. We have a couple of bigger meetings this week of things that could help us continue to grow that future into it. And then as we continue to build out the carpentry package and the carpentry group, that's going to be the next big thing for us as we continue on through our software integrations and things like that. So
anybody that's out there that's looking to get into construction, you're a carpenter, you're tied to real estate in any way, give us a shout. We're looking to constantly expand. If you've got real estate that you're looking to transact, you want somebody to help represent you, or you're looking at it as it's an investment property, you're looking to transact and get rid of it, give us a call. If you're an investor, you're interested in looking to learn how to invest, give me a call, give Kelvin a call. We have lots of coffee with lots of people, and we don't sell anything, right? We're creating the opportunities for people to build their own wealth portfolio inside of our real estate portfolio. So it's about having conversations, sitting down, learning about each other, learning about what other people are doing in the market and beyond. So on average, we probably have 2 or 3 investor meetings a week that we're constantly having new opportunities, new people that are looking to learn about these opportunities. So again, reach out to us, give us a call, drop us an email, and be glad to have a cup of coffee with you.
I agree. No, that's perfect. Perfect way to end it. So everyone have a great week, great rest of the week. We look forward to seeing you everyone next week. And like always, like, subscribe, follow us along. If you like the stuff that we're doing, or you think it's interesting, if you have other ideas of ways that we can bring more value to, throw it in the comments. We'd love to hear that too, so we can continue to provide value to everyone that wants to listen and watch what we got going on. But
absolutely.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care.